So for the uninitiated, could you tell everyone who you are and what you do?
My name is Mike Kirchoff, better known as the Mark Ultra, which was a massive mistake, as you pointed out a minute ago. And I've been making resin toys for about 10 years. And I'm kind of in the transitional point heading towards making more manufactured things, but still chugging along.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, the first time I met you, I was shocked that your name wasn't Mark. I mean, I get it. I understand what Mark Ultra is. And it is like, his name's Mike. And then for further confusion, like, isn't your... do you have an email address and it's like the Mike Ultra?
Yeah.
Like, that's super confusing. Like, that's only for people who've known you like their entire lives. Like everyone else, that's just confusing as hell. So you started this maybe like 2010, 2011?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You were one of the, I would call the, I don't know. There's some people who call things that have this, like, people argue about like the generation. Sucklord is like the first
second
generation.
wave, yeah.
Second wave. So I don't know if we're gonna have to do like some dissertation on like the waves of resin artists. So that makes you the second wave.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how'd you get into this? Like what about making resin made you decide like this is how I wanted to express myself artistically?
Well, I went to school for industrial design, and so I had a lot of the skills kind of in my pocket and wasn't really using them. And then one day I just saw, I was looking at stuff like early Instagram, Healy and Sucklord and Killer, and I was like, I could do this, and I just started doing it.
And I remember when you told me that the name of your character, it was the cloud car. Is it the cloud car body with the Cobra Commander? The
head, yeah.
Not the head. It's the one with the veil or the cloak.
Yeah, exactly.
The cloaked head. What's the name of that character?
The Intruder.
The Intruder. And you told me the Intruder was your Sucklord.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. That was like, and then if you look at the back of many of your carded figures, like it was insane. Like you created this entire universe and have like dozens and dozens of characters that you keep revisiting or have revisited over and over again.
Yeah.
That wasn't necessarily a question, but that was meant for you to expand upon. But okay, we're just going to go with
that's
yes.
True. Indeed. Mostly though, I kind of, yeah, it's more of a feeling, because I feel like a lot of people are making like they have like a statement to make, and the thing that I am saying is that like authority is scary and shitty and always, and that like the powers that be don't have your best interest in mind. Mm-hmm. Which is kind of why like in 2020 I was like, I don't need to make anything. The world is telling my story right now.
Mm. That's is that life imitating art imitating
yeah.
Art? So you went to school for industrial design, and were you already doing tattoos at that point? When did that start?
Yes. So I paid for a full industrial design degree, and then immediately started tattooing. Because again, I make great choices.
Are you still paying for that industrial design degree?
No, I managed to pay it off.
That's good. And then, but doing tattoos, would you say that is your main source of income at this point?
Right now, yeah.
Yeah.
I would like there to be a better balance between toys and tattoos, but that kind of means that I have to step out of the small edition stuff and start doing larger.
Right. And how
which has always been like a double-edged sword for me.
Yeah, I mean, because the audience is, even for what we do here, the audience is small. Like, a good show is, hundreds of orders. It's not like thousands.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
to really get prices down to be able to manufacture affordably, like you have to make thousands of pieces, because even a thousand could be too many.
Yeah.
So it ends up sometimes being 1,000 in 20 different colors, hoping that the same people keep buying
that I can sell the same thing 20 times. Yes.
Exactly. It's like, hey, look, it's in purple now. And suckers like me just keep buying. Yeah, I know how that goes. What's this person? I have used Mark Ultra heads for a handful of customs. They're fantastic and stand out. I'm sure he appreciates that.
I do. Actually, special for that that person. I got some new boys coming. Little monkey guy, little spaceman guy.
Look at
And
that.
this is I've recently gotten into a little bit of 3D printing. I got a little resin machine right here. It's been going pretty good. And that's, combined with a little bit of 3D sculpting and a little bit of in-house printing, I've been kind of able to test out and do like small manufacturing tests to kind of see where things are going. But, the last year and a half has been tough. It's been a lot of lab stuff. It's been a lot of me working my regular job just to kind of keep things going.
The regular job being tattoos.
Yeah, tattooing people.
But did you, we were talking earlier about, I was talking endlessly, trying to fill time, talking about how, I had never thought that I would be on the convention circuit or now be an online retailer or even have the disposition to allow myself to just sit here in front of a camera and have people look at me for an entire day. When you were younger, did you always know you wanted to be an artist?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of ways for an artist to express themselves, and then you've chosen two things that are very different from what most people choose.
Yeah. Well, I feel like tattoos, choice has been a thing since, as long as I can remember.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I became, like at 15, I stopped collecting toys at like 12 and started collecting toys at like 15 again. Right. And at that point I was a collector. I wasn't like, everything was going on a shelf, and at no point did it stop. Like it's still happening today.
Right.
So that was like an obvious thing for me. But tattooing was more of what do I, you just graduate from college, you don't know what to do with yourself. I had some friends that did tattoos and they were like, you could totally do this, just come hang out a couple days a week. And within 6 months I was working, and I had like a day every week, and I was kind of the worst tattoo artist in the shop, like the guy you don't want to get a haircut from for like a year. And then once I kind of got the hang of it, it was a lot easier.
Wow.
And now I've been doing it for 17 years. I was making a joke because 2020 was so weird that I feel like I've just been tattooing for 16 years twice.
Right. And so the degree in industrial design, does that come into play in the things you do, or did that just kind of?
It definitely influences my decisions. Mm-hmm. And I think that I had some material sciences classes, and those are like everything, like I that taught me about what styrene was, what cardboard, what you can do with resin and casting and foams and that kind of stuff. So that part definitely helped with that.
But once you were out of school and you looked at the jobs that were available to you, like it was like no. Like,
no,
that was not the field you were like. At what point did you figure that out? Were you already in school when you figured that out, or?
I was like in my last semester, and I was like, oh, this isn't gonna work. I just paid all this money, and this isn't gonna work.
Right.
Shit.
Yeah. I mean, I have a degree in film and whatever, BA communications, whatever they call it, like. This is the extent of like communicating. Like,
hey.
Yeah, such is life. All right, so then you get into making resin toys, and then did you catch any flack at that point? I know that Killer Bootlegs, when he started, was the subject of a lot of scorn and ridicule, being called a psychedelic ripoff. And it took a lot of time before people saw the nuances and the different shades of the different artists in the scene, and realized that this is a broad uh, there's a broad spectrum of work here, and that there's room for a lot of different voices. Like,
Oh, absolutely.
how did that happen for you? Like, was there any friction there?
No, I feel like Pete caught a lot of flack early on.
Mhm.
And then when I kind of came up, I wasn't getting compared to Morgan. I was getting compared to Healy.
Oh.
And Healy was like, no, it's a completely different thing. It's great. And that was it. It settled it.
That was it. Just once you were a whatever, and then you were
Yeah,
anointed.
I got
and
a
that was
little,
it.
yeah, I got a blessing, and that was it.
Wow. I want to go back to the earlier thing you were talking about, because I find it fascinating. It is, and it'd be interesting to hear from different people who collect toys, the age at which you stopped collecting because you weren't into toys anymore, or you were too embarrassed to, you didn't want to be 40-year-old virgin or whatever, like, and be like, I don't, because there's like, my son is 7, but there's like the 10-year-old, 11-year-old across the street, like he's got his bike and his basketball and his video games. He has no more toys anymore.
Yeah.
Right. And there's just an age at which some people just kind of like shed their toys, and then it's interesting at what age like collectors come back and they start reacquiring that stuff. Like, for me, I probably got rid of most of my toys by 12, 13, although I did dabble a little bit around 14, 15, because I was going to conventions and I was seeing collectible toys. But really, that got kind of like embarrassing, and like got rid of that. It wasn't till I was 18 that I bought back all my vintage Star Wars toys.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's easier for kids today because all of those things. What I like to say is, if you were the dude at work and you had action figures in your cubicle like 20 years ago, people were like,
Yeah.
like keep your kids away from this guy. And now you go into offices, there's stuff everywhere.
Yeah.
And the way the culture has changed is like, now people are having kids and they're watching the same cartoons, they're playing the same video games, they're listening to the same music, they're reading the same comics, and they're collecting the same toys. And I've had that conversation with my 7-year-old. He's like, "What's that?" I'm like, "That's Daddy's toy. Like, you leave that alone."
Yeah.
It's like, well, why can't I have one? It's like, when you make your own money, you can have one. Like,
That's the kind of toy you buy yourself.
yeah. So that's fascinating. All right, so moving on. So back to the early part of the scene. So you didn't have a lot of friction, but at what point did you become? Were you always a Mark Ultra?
No, this was like it was an Instagram name I chose.
Uh-huh.
And it just worked for what I felt like I was saying,
Mm-hmm. And the Mark Ultra, for people who don't know, that's based on the CIA's is that the
LSD trials.
the LSD trials, when
Yeah.
when the government said, like, how can we exploit LSD to manipulate people? It's like,
This could be a weapon.
So what did they actually do? Didn't they like put it in the water supply, or?
Yeah, in a town in France, which caused a lot of people to die. They also, Ted Kaczynski was part of an experiment at I might be wrong, Harvard, I believe. Where he was like put on really extremely high doses of LSD, and they tried to deconstruct his worldview from the outside.
Wow.
Which didn't work. and is why things went the way they did.
Ian is sitting here nodding his head, agreeing with you that you are
Yeah.
you are recounting the history appropriately. Wow, that's crazy. And then what? Ted Kaczynski ended up like living in a hut all by himself, and then, but it wasn't because of the LSD. It was because
no, it was because of the attacks on his ideology. Because what happened was most of the people like sort of melted and became malleable on this much acid under this much pressure. Ted Kaczynski did not. Ted Kaczynski maintained his outlook through the whole process, and this was extremely damaging. And that's why he felt all I can do now is go in the woods and write a manifesto.
That is like the worst. I mean, you know, we read about like blowback, you know, to wars and things. There's so many, you know, the history of the U.S. government, but that's I was not aware of that, and that is wow. I'm gonna be thinking about that in the middle of the night tonight. That's the most fucked up thing I've ever heard. Wow. Yeah. Interestingly enough, I did see on Netflix this recently about how they're using microdosing of LSD, and it's the most effective way to get people to quit smoking and to for behavioral changes, and that they think that most of the side effects that that were like put out there as like all this dangerous side effects of LSD are mostly not true. But they do talk a lot about how you kind of
causes non-compliance to stupid authority. I found.
All right, back to toys. All right, so then it's like 2010, 2011, and you put yourself out there as a Mark Ultra, even though your name is Mike. And then you, how did that go? Like you said you didn't get flack from people, but did it, I don't know, did you look at this and like, oh, like this, I mean, did you have like an aha moment? Was this like, that you decided like this is how you were going to express yourself as an artist? Because, you know, you'd gone to school, you're doing tattoos. Were you doing tattoos already?
Yes.
Yes. So, I mean, you do have a creative outlet, but that's kind of like a work for hire kind of thing. Like,
I was also painting and hanging paintings in galleries, things like that. So, I mean, it wasn't like artistic expression appeared out of nowhere, but when I started doing this, it felt extremely right. And I really quickly realized that I was good at it, just capable, you know, of telling a sort of narrative story this way. And so I said, hey, this works for me. And then the first few things I put out moved really great. And I was like, oh, people get it. So that's great. And I just kind of kept going. It wasn't like, you know, I probably would have done it just as long if it didn't work, because it wasn't about money. It was always about just doing something else.
And if not this, you would have become a serial killer and gone and lived in a hut in the mountain.
No, probably not.
Isn't that like the joke about like, you know, stifled artists who don't get to express themselves, like you become Hitler?
Yeah, I know that guy. I'm not that guy.
Yeah. Hey, Ian, can you grab me that box from over there? So, yeah, well, so I got this collection, and I just want to show people while I have a nice little collection of your work in front of me.
Nice.
Kind of toying like whether to keep all of this, put it out for sale. Trying to like not get high on my own supply. But so
that's a crap commandment.
Your first figures weren't carded though, were they?
No. Everyone was real cagey about cards when I first started. That's the one you were asking about flack earlier, and nobody wanted to share with me anything about making cards. I got bubbles pretty quick, but they were really, really expensive, and I couldn't get good enough cards made at first. So I wound up doing a lot of bag stuff early on.
And I think that's kind of what you were known for early on. Like I think you more than other artists like were able to establish yourself just, you know, creating like individual characters without a lot of graphics to support them. Can we talk about this paint job?
That's Kevin Watts.
That's crazy.
Really, really good.
How long did that take?
That was by that paint job was Kevin Watts, so I don't know. Longer than he got paid for sure.
But I mean, this how much was this when it came out? $40?
I think $40, yeah.
Jesus. The hell. All right, so that was an example of your the Raider character, correct?
Yeah.
Sorry, what's this character called?
That's the Intruder.
The Intruder, right. And then this is a
Dave
common.
was this guy's name.
His name was Dave?
Yep.
Wow, look at Dave. And I would say that you more than other artists have, I don't know, want to call it getting away with, but it seems like you're able to release colorway after colorway of the same characters and people just keep coming back for more. Is that an accurate assessment?
Yeah, I feel like, you know, I feel like that's one of the benefits of not saying too much. You
Right.
know, because when I make it the character X who does X, then I have no choice but to create a new character the next time. This is some vague thing. It seems like a, you know, like a job title or something sometimes with some of these titles I use. So
right.
It's not the same guy, it could be another guy. Now this one was me and Green Plastic Tunnels, Andrew Geddes.
No, but this is a
really, this is literally one of my favorite pieces I've ever made. Those pieces are mine and the little crocodile was his, and I kind of put everything together. But because he has a tendency to come by and we have some great like one-on-one conversations, art powwow, and
but he's
one of my favorite people to hang out with.
He's kind of the same philosophy though. Like he explains nothing. I mean, he'll put like a little plastic shape on a card with a piece of art that's just like an orange box going like this, and then that's it.
Yeah,
it's like you figure it out. It's like a piece of modern art.
I love it.
But that's interesting. So for all of you newbies out there, if you want to release the same thing over and over again, trick is don't explain anything.
Don't explain anything.
This one's fantastic because the 2-1B body is always so versatile.
It looks so tough when you take it out of the context of the medical droid.
Right.
Yeah.
So good. Well, what are the pants here?
All the other limbs are from a scout, a biker scout.
Look at that.
And then the head, I think, is Steel Monsters. Metal face.
I'm just going to show a couple more of these. So, I mean, creatively, like, this is another Dave figure, correct?
Yes.
With another crazy paint job.
Ridiculous.
What is that? It's
I
insane.
remember I got these. He didn't send me a picture. He just sent them to me in the mail. I opened the box and I was like, bro, you did too much. They're amazing, though.
There's another Dave.
Yeah.
Intruder. But that was interesting when you said to me, it's like, this is my suck lord. So it's kind of like this was your main character from your universe, but then proceeded not to explain anything else.
Nope.
So is this it? Have you made it? Like, have you achieved your artistic expression? Like are you?
So I don't know about other artists, but I have this window that's probably about, I don't know, 12, 24 hours. I'll finish something and I'll be like, you're the man, Mike. You did great. What a good job. I'll walk away from it, come back a day later and be like, fuck, can't you ever grow?
Wow. That's
so
amazing.
I mean, that means every time I finish, I have
Right.
a small spoonful of satisfaction, and
Mhm.
then it's like, okay, do something new. Next thing.
I find myself trying to explain to a 7-year-old who is never satisfied with anything. We say use that line as like, you get what you get, and you don't get upset, right? It's like, which is, it's kind of a horrible thing to say to a kid. Like you, but it's easy. It's what you want as a parent. It's kind of like, what I tell my kid is like, you listen to what I say and you do what I tell you, except for everyone else in the world, question authority and don't do anything. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But if I ask you to do something, you better do it. And it's like,
Yeah.
and it's kind of the same thing as like trying to like paint a picture for this like little human being about, being, what is contentment, and what is like never being happy and being miserable.
Yeah.
And an artist's life, I guess, is, I don't want to call it miserable, but it's difficult enough. But what you are describing is kind of like, like Johnny Depp, who, claims he never watches his movies, or, Martin Scorsese, who sits there in a screening and covers his face because he can't, bear to watch, what he has created. So does that help you? How do you balance the two? Like
I think
the never being satisfied, but continue wanting to like be motivated.
I am genuinely never satisfied. Like
Mhm.
always. I find very few things satisfying. Long term.
Mhm.
Uh I guess it's because I have sort of a short attention span, maybe. I don't know. Um, but it doesn't, I see it as growth. Like every time I get to that point, I'm like, good. I'm still moving. I'm still
Mhm.
moving down the road. Like I don't feel like, damn it, why can't I like anything? I feel like, okay, good. That means that a better thing is just beyond my vision, just beyond the horizon.
So you're not generally a miserable person.
No, no, no.
You don't
But
seem that way.
I think that most real satisfaction is short,
Hmm.
you know?
That's
Um,
interesting. I've never thought of it that way. I always think that I'm going to achieve like some big satisfaction, and then I can just like, I don't know, move on. But
you ever seen that guy, that vintage Star Wars collector that has 200 gonk droids?
no, but there's people like that I've seen on Instagram.
There
Like
are
they have,
people like,
yeah,
every time they buy a gonk droid, they get
yeah,
this little drop of satisfaction. Now, if that satisfaction was whole and they
yeah,
could just like set it down in their house and look at it, it,
right,
it wouldn't work. That's why you need another gonk droid. That's why you need another Boba Fett.
right. That's that
You know,
that little drop
I
of,
have 200 R5D4s. Thank you, Adam. I don't know who said that, but it just came up on the screen and it's
Oh,
perfect. Exactly.
that's Adam Marks. He has devoted his life to R5D4.
Exactly.
I mean, he likes droids in general, but R5D4. I mean, he made, the reason I met him is because he made an R5D4 Garbage Pail Kid card, and then
Oh yeah, the one that kind of looks like Adam Bomb, Bad Motivate.
that's him.
Yeah, yeah.
Hi, Adam. Yeah, it's just that little, what is it? It's like that little drop of like dopamine or whatever that you get
Yeah. That
like
hit.
every time. But then it's supposed, isn't it supposed to like diminish every time? Like
Yeah,
the high.
that's why you need 200. That's why you need to have the 200 R5D4s, because when you look at that, that's what gives it to you. You're like, oh, there it is. I've done it. I've walked this path. And then when you see another one, you're like, now it's going to be 201.
Wow, collecting is a disease, isn't it? I'm sorry, everybody. Ian just said, and we're the pushers. That's right. Yeah. Well, I mean, I have to say, for most of the people that I've interviewed, um, you're seem to be in a better place and know yourself more. I would say generally, most people are either trying to find themselves or are generally just angst ridden. and then the people who are never satisfied, that kind of goes hand in hand with something negative, like just being miserable all the time.
Yeah.
And I find that to be true for a lot of artists that I just know in general. And then because you want to grow and you want to go on to the next thing. And then we talk about this a lot as a kind of a theme of a lot of these interviews is once someone gets known for doing one thing and becomes successful at it, then that's what people want to keep seeing. And I
Yeah.
always use the example of like if you go to an Eagles concert and if you paid $500 for a ticket or whatever and they don't sing Hotel California,
You could be mad.
you'd be mad.
Yeah.
And they don't want to fucking sing Hotel California. They wrote that
Nope.
50 years ago and they don't give a shit. And they did it once. They did I remember there was a tour and they said they were playing new material only. and nobody went. Like, it's not like if you're going to pay $500 and have the one experience, like you want to hear the song. And you can, this is just a silly example that shows my age, but you can apply this to anybody.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
you take any artist that has just taken a complete right turn. It's like if Metallica wanted to come out with like a jazz album,
Yeah.
people would be like, I mean, people already feel like they took a right turn, but that's a whole nother, right.
But also, I think like I went to see maybe like late 90s. I went to see some metal fest and Europe played.
Mm-hmm.
The band Europe.
Yeah.
They opened with the Final Countdown.
Right.
At about the middle of their set, they took a break and came back out to the Final Countdown. And when the show ended, the last song they played was the Final fucking Countdown.
Wow. I mean,
and I was like, these guys know what the audience wants. And all three times, the whole fucking place went nuts.
I mean, that is amazing and both devastatingly sad at the same time. Right? I mean, to think that like, hey, I was in a band and I'm only known for this one song,
but it's amazing.
I have to play it 3 times in a concert to get people to, and the people are just biding their time, like, oh, there's this song and that song. Oh, I got to listen to this song, and then it's the Final Countdown again. It's like reprise, it's like whatever. Oh man, that's so brutal. When I'm thinking about the Ted Kaczynski tonight, I'm also going to cry about Europe. All right, so what's next? Where's this all heading? Like, what do you? Let me just say, as one of the people, before you get to that question, sorry, I'm interrupting myself, which is terrible. But if you adopted this medium for yourself to express yourself, and are considered, one of the, early adopters, the second wave, or whatever you want to call it. You've been doing it for almost a dozen years. I mean, what do you think of all of these other people and the new people that are starting today, or the new people who discover this? What's your opinion of like where it's going, where it's been?
Well, I think that in the first few years, a lot of us early adopters kind of built a network of like a supply chain. You're definitely one of them, so it became easier to get the things we need to do this job. And I appreciate that. And I appreciate the fact that these kids that are doing it now aren't doing like the same thing. They got to do more. There's a lower bar of entry. So to really achieve something, you have to go a little bit higher. And I mean, there are artists that sometimes I see their work and I'm like, what am I even doing? This guy's got it. Let him do it.
Right.
For me right now, the number one person like that is Pendragon. I keep seeing that guy's work and going, this guy's doing me better than me. Let him do it. I'm working on other new things, and this guy's really nailing it.
But
so
he's also working in that style, like you in Green Plastic Tunnels, where he's not explaining anything.
No,
he's taking bits and pieces of different people's of different pieces from pop culture, creating a new sculpture, a new piece, a new narrative that is. And then the card art also is, I mean, the card art, they're big and they're shiny, but it just says like, it just says LSD on it in 3 letters, and that's
it. I literally saw that and was like, this guy's singing my song, and I love it. You know.
Wow. Do you collect other artists' work?
I collect some. I'm not a huge carded figure collector. I collect a lot of loose stuff.
So you buy them and rip them open?
No. What I most nowadays is I'll get loose stuff from artists. And that's usually what I'll have. Plus I'm a Glios addict. Yeah.
You're one of those.
Mm-hmm.
Toy box is like, yes.
Like, yes.
All right, so back to my other question. So where do you think that this is going? I mean, can this sustain? Is this a fluke, a little bubble, or is this a permanent medium that is going to continue to grow for decades? Are we going to have this conversation again, like in another dozen years?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we're all going to become different things, This isn't something where, like, I feel like I'm on the edge of becoming a slightly different kind of toy creator. My goals now are to do all original stuff, all stuff that have, that I've kind of developed in-house. And then the next step for me is manufacturing, probably Glios. I've been talking with some of those guys. Jesse DeStasio, who's really one of the best dudes in toys that I know. Matt Dowdy is awesome. Brandon Barker is another like really nice guy, very available. And if we all stay lifting each other up and supporting each other and allowing each other to develop, it'll create tiers, so like we're getting to a point where, like with Healy and the Glio stuff, he's a good friend of mine. We talk all the time. I talked to him this morning. He's doing good with that, and that sort of created a situation where he can make smaller amounts of resin stuff but make it beautiful. And that's great, and as we get further away from where we started, we can kind of wind up expanding the ways we do it. And then the new people coming in who are just making resin toys now have a wider open field to work in. And I think that structure is what's going to allow us long term to prosper as, toy artists. And, like there's always seems to be a flood and a retraction. We'll have 20 people, and then a few years later, only 5 of them remain. And it goes like that in a cycle. So, I feel like the market's gonna speak for itself. Toy collectors aren't going anywhere. None of us are stopping. I'm not done, and that's I think the thing that's driven this all along is that what is there, 93 Star Wars figures? So you get all 93 of them, then what? And so many people, that's what they wind up over here. They wind up with us, and I think that I've had a lot of conversations about like reaction and those kind of things, and about how that's like them filling in this same gap. But I feel like it's not a negative thing. It legitimizes us, Anyone saying like, oh, this is important is only going to make me seem more important. They're not my competitor. They're, there's something that's legitimizing my art. And I think that's really important too.
Right. So, I mean, do you think, I mean, we could always be doing better, but like, have you made it? Like, I mean, is this, you make toys for a living, and you support, you do tattoos also, but you support yourself. Like, I mean, when you're 60, are you going to be making toys also? Is there an end game, or like, is this it? Like,
this is it. I don't have some great plan. It's the the need to progress that's always going to keep me moving forward. And you know, basically I draw on people and play with toys. Those are my tasks in life.
Right. I guess I'm always
Do I
like,
need to find something else? Not really.
I guess I always have like Morgan in the back of my head, because he's always so dissatisfied and always wants to stop making toys, and has retired like 5 times, 10 times, right? And just can't wait till someone rolls up with the wheelbarrows of money so that he doesn't have to work anymore. And
Yeah.
You seem to be in a much better place than most people. I guess that's the best way I can put it. It's like you have a great attitude about yourself and how to motivate yourself, and you understand yourself, which, number one, most people don't know themselves at all.
Yeah.
Right? Because we're humans and we're all liars, and you know, we mostly lie to ourselves. We say, oh, like I look good in that. Oh, I'm gonna eat all of that. I'm gonna run, you know, like what, you know, it's like, no, every day, you know, we just, my life is meaningful. It's like, no. No,
That's
just,
where my loose screw is. You know?
Right.
That's my tiny malfunction.
But you know, to talk to someone who is content yet motivated, happy where you are but still wants to continue, like I think you're like the poster child for like any artist who is like trying to achieve something, because that's you know, I ask the same question to a lot of people, and you know, I get this whole variety of answers, and it's usually like, you know, the people usually either don't know how to answer, or it's so like angst and, you know, you know, it's like just a failure to even like acknowledge, you know, and dance around the subject, like, because, you know, because life is just so painful as it is now. And, you know, I say the same thing all the time, is like, you know, an artist's life is painful to begin with. Like, you know, you're compelled to make things and put it out there and have people judge you, right? I call it like an open wound. Like artists are just like sitting there waiting, you know, and then people just, some people like give you a little band-aid, and other people just pour salt on it. You know? And it's, you know, in a way, like, you know, I hope that my kid like can find satisfaction in something that is not art, right?
Yeah.
And if art is the only option, right? If you will be what does it say? Happy thoughts with Doug Kellemer. Thanks, Magoob. You know, it's like if you can do anything else and be happy, you should. And then if you can't, and if you're gonna be a dictator and a despot, like, you should do your art. You know, make the world a better place.
Yeah.
Well,
but another side of that is like people are like, you know, if I want to be happy, what kind of art should I do? And I'm like, advertising, like marketing.
Wow.
Run, kid, run.
That's amazing. All right. Well, on that note, I just want to thank you for your time. It's been a pleasure.
You, man. Always good to hang out with you, man. Thank you.
Really appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, I hope we get to see each other in person soon enough.
Eventually, the world will stop melting.
Yeah.
All right, man. Take care of yourself.
You too, man. Take care. Bye, everybody.
Right. Bye-bye. Wow. That was magical.